Hey guys, welcome back. It's Jen, and today I'm going to teach you how to pipe the perfect cupcake swirl. First, I'm going to show you how to pipe it on a cupcake, and then I'm going to show you how to pipe it on a cake. Okay, so here's the tools you're going to need if you want to take a quick screenshot of this. Here's some more optional items. This is for if you're afraid to do the swirl on the cake for the first time, or the cupcake, you're afraid you're going to ruin it. You can actually pipe them onto a flat surface, put them into the refrigerator or freezer, and then they harden, and then you can put them on the cupcake or cake. So you just need something flat like a cutting board, and then you're going to wrap the parchment paper around it and tape it on the back. And the extra cake board it should be the size that your actual cake is. I just use it as a guide to figure out the spacing for the cupcake swirls and how to place them on your cake. Okay, so you can go ahead and add your icing color now. One thing to know is that the frosting will oxidize as it sits, and that means it'll get slightly darker as it sits. So if your frosting color is a little bit lighter than the color on the bottle, that is normal. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and cut the tip off of our piping bag so we can put our piping tip in. I do it a little shorter than normal, and then I put it in, and then I kind of recut it to size because I hate when I cut them too short and have to throw the bag away. So that's a 2D tip, and just to show you, if you have a similar tip, that'll work for the cupcake swirl as well. And I'm going to use the cup technique to fill up my piping bag here. And only put like 2 spatulafuls of frosting, because if we put too much, it'll be hard to pipe. If we do too little, it'll be hard to pipe. So you want the perfect kind of grip. So once you push the frosting to the tip, twist the bag as tight as you can, and just position your hand so you can squeeze it well. So assuming you're right-handed, you're going to want to squeeze with the right hand, and then you use your left hand to kind of stabilize the bag. I'll give you instructions on this in a minute. I just wanted you to see it first. Let me show you that again in slow motion. So you're going to want your bag straight up and down. Start applying light pressure and slowly move your frosting out in a spiral motion until you get to the edge of the cupcake, and then you start to slowly spiral in. And then when you get to the top, you're going to stop putting pressure on the frosting when you get right to the middle, and stop pressure here and slowly pull up. And this one I'm going to show in reverse just because I think it's cool. But who knows? You know, everybody learns differently. Maybe it'll help you out, but at least it will definitely entertain you. So now I'm going to show you how to pipe the cupcake swirls on top of a cake. So if you're a beginner, this is the best way to play it safe. So go ahead and tape that parchment paper on a cutting board or whatever you have. So I put a 6-inch cake poured down on the parchment paper because I have a 6-inch cake. And I'm just going to make little marks with the frosting so that when you pull up the circle, you kind of see where the circle is. This is going to help you with your cupcake swirl placement on top of your cake. So I usually pipe 6 of these on top of the cake. So first I'm going to start with 1, and then I'm going to go directly across and then do another one. So now you're going to want to place 2 cupcake swirls in between those 2 swirls you already made. So just place 2 evenly between the 2. And then after that, you're going to want to go diagonal from the cupcake swirls you just made. I found this is the best way to assure that your cupcake swirls look evenly placed. And remember, as your frosting level lowers in your bag, to stop and retwist the bag. So if you like how these turned out, you can go ahead and put them in the refrigerator or in the freezer if you want it to happen quicker. And they will harden, and you will be able to scrape them off and put them right on top of your cake. If you don't like them, you can just scrape them off and start over. So these have hardened, and you can use a spatula or knife or fork, whatever works best for you. It'll keep its shape pretty much. Let's see how sturdy those are. So it's really nice because you can put them directly on your cake. This is nice here too because if you made them a little too big, you can really put them to the edge and make space. If you made them a little small, you can push them more in toward the center of the cake to make it spaced properly. I'm going to pipe the rest directly on the cake so you can see that technique. So you pipe the first swirl anywhere, and then you pipe another swirl directly across from that. And then the space you have left over, you pipe 2 swirls in between the first 2 swirls that you piped. And then from there, you pipe diagonal swirls. So that's for 6. So let's say you want to do smaller cupcake swirls. So you want to do 8 of them. Or maybe you have a bigger cake and you need to fill up the space. Let me show you that. So you pipe the first swirl anywhere, and then you pipe one directly across from that. And then you split the space between the first 2 you piped and place a swirl there, and then place another swirl directly across from that. And then you just fill in the spaces in between those. And if you want to put an odd number of swirls on your cake, you're on your own. I don't do odd numbers. It's just not worth it. So I'd rather just adjust the size of my swirls to make an even number of swirls. And then if you're doing a square or rectangular cake, that one's more straightforward. You pretty much start with putting swirls in all the corners, and then you just divide it evenly. So just a few troubleshooting tips here, because I'm assuming that you're probably a beginner if you're learning how to do this cupcake swirl. So if your tip could get clogged from your frosting, you can go ahead and just take a toothpick and just slit it in all the slots and clean it out. If it keeps happening a lot, I would just remix your frosting. But if it just happens occasionally, that's what you can do. You are going to have to refill your frosting, so when it gets to about that level, it's going to be harder to pipe. So I'd go ahead and fill it up when you get too low. So when you go to refill your bag, you're more likely to get air bubbles the second time around. So you can go ahead and try to avoid these air bubbles as much as you can by making sure that the frosting gets to as close to the tip as you can. So I like to tap the cup on the countertop to try and get the frosting to go down, but you can end up with these air bubbles, and I like to kind of squeeze those out, and I kind of squeeze them out so the air goes out the back of the bag. So if you keep having trouble with air bubbles, you can use a different technique to fill up your piping bag. So you pull out some saran wrap, put a couple scoops of frosting on there, roll it up like a tube, cut off one end, put that open end into your piping bag, and you're going to leave your tube in the bag and squeeze out your frosting from there. Just be careful not to get any saran wrap stuck in your piping tip as you pipe. And sometimes air bubbles are just unavoidable. So what happens when you're piping is just when you hear the air bubble coming out, you just kind of stop moving your piping bag, let it release, and then continue piping. So that is all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I can't wait till next time.